Wonderful. So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us in our last Avanzar class. You did it. This is our last class of the 2020-2021 program. So we are super excited to finish off with a great cohort. You guys have all been wonderful, and we are appreciative of your time and dedication into this program. Today we'll go ahead and have Armando Roman. He serves in our executive board with the chamber, and he's also with Axiom Financial Advisory Group. He'll be presenting succession planning for this last and final class, and then we'll go ahead and do somewhat of a virtual graduation. I know we couldn't meet in person just yet, but we'll make it up to you in the future. I promise. But we'll go ahead and do that virtual graduation as soon as Armando wraps up his presentation. So you should have all received the agenda for today, all the information. So if you have any questions, let us know. And we'll go ahead and just kick it off with Armando and go straight to the class today. Thank you so much, Armando.
Great, thank you. And I'm really excited to be here in front of you guys today because I love working with business. Most of our clients are business owners, and we get to work with them through all stages of that business life cycle, you know, from startup to growth to sometimes hyper growth and to sell. And exciting news for me this week, one of our clients is in negotiations right now to sell his company for $26 million. So it's really exciting to see that, you know, the business as it grows and matures and all that. Just super excited to be part of you know, your American success story with your business. So what I thought I would do is give you a little bit of background on myself, and then get into a few things here with you. So I am a CPA. I had my own CPA firm for a number of years. I sold that CPA firm 14 years ago. I had operated that firm for 14 years before I sold it. And when I sold it, I was looking at 3 different options to you know, get out of it. I took a lot of time to evaluate those and really understand what was going to be best, because, you know, when you have your own business, it becomes another child for you. I have 3 kids. They're almost all 3 adults now, but my company, you know, like you, it becomes your child. So it's a big move in your life when you come to actually liquidate that business. And for me, it was that same thing as well. So that's one thing I wanted to mention to you, that I eat, live, and breathe starting businesses and just being part of businesses. I helped get a community bank founded and off the ground several years ago. This is quite a while ago now, but just in that whole process, with all the high regulation that is part of banking, there's a lot to it that really goes into all of this. My clients are business owners. So I had my CPA firm. Before I sold off that CPA firm, I started another business. I had them both at the same time. And what I have today is what we do today, which is really helping people like you protect and preserve their wealth and accomplish the goals that you're trying to accomplish. And what one person might try to accomplish might be different from what somebody else might be trying to accomplish. So good thing about having your own business, as you do, is you get to decide. And you get to decide what that's going to look like in the company and how is that company going to benefit your family. So our clients are typically first generation wealth, meaning they are the first ones in their family to really just stray away from the pack and achieve phenomenal success. So I get the privilege of working with self-made multimillionaires, and it's really fun and exciting to work with them, to work with people just like you, because you know, when you through blood, sweat, and tears start a company, you really I think get so much more enrichment out of that whole experience. And when it comes time to liquidate or transfer that business to, say, your adult kids, you know, it's another child for you, just about. Our clients are probably just like you. They are experts in their fields. They are very educated people who just really have honed into a niche. And that is where their expertise lies. And I'll use the expression having expertise in every corner, because as I talk about your professional team that you really want to have on board, and many of you have that on board today, that professional team has to be built of experts in every respective area to really give you the biggest bang for the buck and the best outcome. Our clients are very much family-oriented people. I imagine you are as well. And our clients are also a people of faith, whether they're Jewish or Christian or whatever they might be. They're people who believe in a higher power, in a higher being, and they believe that they need to give back to the community, give back to their families, and really be a productive part of our vibrant community. So that's part of what excites me about working with business owners like you, in that you realize that you can shape your future and shape your world and really have a significant impact on your family. And we'll talk about 4 generations for family, meaning that it's not just impacting you. Many of you still have parents who are here and you help take care of them. You take care of your kids and you set things up for grandkids. So it's just a lot that really goes into this. What I'm going to go through today is really, I want to drive home 2 points. One is, how do you preserve what you've already built up to this point? I think we have a little one around. So we have 2 points I want to drill home. One is, how do you preserve what you've already built? And often, we get busy in our day-to-day lives, and we don't often step back to look at the broad picture, and we don't look at, where was I last year? Where am I today? Where was I 5 years ago? Where am I today? And I'm going to take you through an exercise to go through that, because I want you to think about that, so that when I ask you, what value have you created with your company? And then we talk about how to protect that. I want you to remember and think about things that you've done and where you are, so that when you do think about your value, you take all those appropriate steps so that you can protect all of that value today. So I hope that makes sense. I'm going to go through and touch on the screen that you see here, and I need a little feedback to make sure that I'm doing this correctly. I'm going to do the slideshow, and I'd like you to tell me if you can see the whole screen of that first slide that has 6 bullet points on it. If you could just nod, Monica, that you see that. Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. I've gotten a lot better at Zoom, but I still got to learn some things here. So what I saw of your agenda, of your curriculum for this, it reminded me of a curriculum that I saw for ASU's Entrepreneurship Certificate. At ASU West, they used to have a program called Entrepreneurship, and it was very similar to this, where you talked about some of the basics of business, and then at the end, there was what's called a capstone. For ASU's entrepreneurship program, I delivered that capstone. And what my responsibility was, is to take all these different pieces and roll them into a completed business plan for the participant. Now, today we're not doing that, but as I look at what you've gone through, and I have them up on the screen to remind you what you have gone through, I'm going to touch on each of these, because each of these is important, but it's important that we remember, just touch on these lightly so that you can remember what you talked about, and it'll make today's material even that much more relevant. So you had Wells Fargo come in to speak with you about accessing capital. And when you think about accessing capital, obviously you're thinking about lines of credit, you're thinking about loans, because as you know, having your business, cash is the lifeblood of every company. And without cash, you cannot pay payroll. And if you get to that point, those are dire straits where you never want to be. But if you get to that point, well, that means that you didn't plan ahead of time. So when you had Joe Trimble talk with you from Wells Fargo about accessing capital, he probably talked about lines of credit. He probably talked about borrowing money, maybe getting different types of SBA loans or other loans. We have a client who came on board with us last year, and her hot button with her company was she wanted to have money for growth. She was in a high growth business and she knew that. And she also, even though she had lots of cash in the bank, she realized that she might need more later to be able to handle the growth. So when she came in to see me in May, she and her husband came in to see me. She runs the business, he's not part of it, but they make decisions together. And it was good they both came in together. But when they came in May, and we began talking about getting the loans for her company, what she didn't realize is that she had already started the EIDL process, the economic disaster loan that SBA has. She had already started that process with somebody before. So in May, when I met with them, she didn't have this money, but we did a few things with her, took just a few minutes, but a few things with her, and all of a sudden, she had about $200,000 dropped into her bank account the next day, which is great for a business. We also helped her get another line of credit for another $200,000. And for a growing business, that's just an example of how accessing capital is just critical, really, really critical. Today, we have the PPP loans. She already got that as well. Some of you probably got that yourselves. And now we have another round of PPP loans available, and that has the bankers again scurrying today. I believe that's why Joe Trimble was not able to make it today, because the PPP loans that are really necessary or needed by many of these companies today, the banks are responsible to dole all those out. So as you are thinking about accessing your own capital, I'm going to mention one other quick thing that is important there as well. What you know from having your own business, your family and your business, they're two separate things, but they really get melded together. And so it's not uncommon for a business owner to start up the business or finance the business using equity in their home. So maybe you heard about a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. What we've experienced here in our local marketplace in the last 12 months is really incredible. We all had this pandemic hit and then a shutdown, but then what we saw is our home values began to go up. So home prices here have gone up 10, 15, maybe 20% in the last 12 months. And if you are looking for money for your business, a HELOC, a home equity line, might be another avenue for you. You also talked about marketing with one of your presenters. In marketing, and of course that's getting the prospective client to come on board and understand who you are and how you can help them. I've got a really good example of marketing and how that is impactful. But all that messaging matters. And here's an example of how that messaging matters. We had a new client who signed up with us a week ago today. And when they signed up with us, they came to see me in July of 2018, 2.5 years ago. This couple came in to see me. And after that, we had a good meeting, but after that, they kind of went away. They didn't come back, and they just went dark. They went quiet. Well, they reached out to me and came in to see me in December. And we have a process that we go through with people as we decide whether they're going to hire us and whether we're going to take them on as a client. But we met with them in December, met with them again, and then met with them again just this past Friday. That's our process. And in that process, we decide if we're going to take them on, and they decide if they want to work with us. Well, one thing that the husband said is in tune with marketing 100%. What he said is, Armando, we interviewed 4 financial advisors. We went to go see 4 different people, and your name kept coming back to the top. All of your messaging that you send out, your newsletters, all that verbiage, all those messages, it spoke to me. And it made me keep bringing you to the top of the list. And that's why when we made a decision to hire somebody, we came back to you. So that's a very recent example for me, how that messaging, how that marketing through our LinkedIn, through our social media, through our emails, through our newsletters, through our periodic phone calls, all that marketing got them to say yes and come on board. For you, your marketing campaign may look very different from ours, but it's important to get those folks on board, and that's why it's just critical. Finance, I'm going to touch on finance because this is really, really relevant, and it's especially relevant right now today for one of our clients. The one who I learned on Wednesday is in negotiations right now to sell his business for $26 million. Finance, you had somebody come talk with you. They will typically talk about bookkeeping, about accounting, about financial statements. They'll talk about internal controls. They'll talk about policies and procedures. So in the finance realm, two things. One is you have to understand where you are, and that's what those financials will tell you. But when it comes time for you to sell your business, like my client right now today for the $26 million price tag, when that time comes for you, the buyer is trusting what you're telling them about the value of your business, but then they need to bring in this outside party to validate that what you're saying is true and accurate. The way they validate that is they bring in the auditor to come in and take a look at all of your books. And in the audit process, sometimes an audit is necessary, but sometimes it's not. So if you are somewhere in that window of thinking that you will sell your business in the next 2 to 3 to 4 years, it would be really important for you to talk with your CPA about having an audit or having reviewed financial statements. Because when you can show a very clean track record in those financials, the value of your company is going to go up. And it's been proven, nice, clean financials that are validated by an outside third party take the value of the business higher. And the client I've got that's selling their company now, if they didn't have these nice, neat, clean financials, that would delay closure of the sale. When you have a buyer there who wants to give you a big fat check for your company, the last thing you want to do is delay closure of that sale. And if your financials need to get cleaned up, need to get audited, that will delay the closure of that sale. That is not what you want to have happen. So the finance number 3 on here of what you've already had, really, really important. Human resources, number 4 on here. Human resources, of course, is all about your people, about keeping those people on board, keeping them happy, keeping them engaged, because the people who represent your company represent you, and that's part of your brand, and that's part of what you have, and that creates value for your company. So the way that we get involved in the human resources many times is helping to keep that executive team on board. So this new client that I mentioned to you that's coming on board with us, one thing that they already have in process is they're adopting the 4-step Covey system so that they can get their management team to now really run this business without their involvement at all. So these owners who are my newest client, their goal is to get their management team fully running this company so that husband and wife can go travel the world and give back to the community like they want to do and continue living their lives the way they want to live. And the way they do that and have this business producing money for them is to get that management team in place. So the way that we will be able to help them do that is we can put in different types of plans that are helpful. Maybe it's a deferred compensation plan. Maybe it's called golden handcuffs. Maybe it's a pension plan. Maybe it's a profit sharing plan or a defined benefit plan or a 401k plan. But all of these are different things that fall in that general employee benefits realm, which is often coming under human resources. And for your company, if you have an executive team or you have key people on board and you want to keep them in place, these are all things that you'll want to keep in mind because keeping them on board helps to preserve the value of what you've already built up to this point. Number 5, negotiation skills. Negotiation skills, of course, are important with everything, whether it's negotiating a lease or buying new equipment or maybe hiring new employees. So negotiation skills, it's just a part of everyday life of what we have to do for that. So succession planning is what I'm going to focus on today. And in succession planning, I have, as a follow-on to that, preserving and protecting your American success story. I'm going to talk a lot today about protecting what you have. And I'm going to ask you in your mind and on a piece of paper in front of you to identify what you have, so that when I talk about protecting that, you are thinking about for your company, how have you already protected what you have? And if you haven't protected, we'll talk about some things that you can do to protect it. Because the whole goal often of starting your own business, maybe it's been your dream forever. For me, I was 15 when my dream was to have my own business. I don't know about you. Maybe you were forced into your own business because a company downsized and you just found, hey, I got to make a living. What do I do? For whatever your reason of being in this business, you've stuck with this business and persevered, most likely because you know that you can have a better outcome for your family by you being in control of your company and you giving it your blood, sweat, and tears to build this company. And at some point, you will liquidate this company, or as the client that just signed up with me last Friday, what they want to do is they want to transfer their company to their adult kids. And when they came to see me on Friday, they brought their 25-year-old daughter with them so that she could begin learning. So for you, as you transition your business to the next generation, you're going to want to keep in mind, how do you get this young adult to really understand and be able to take over the reins, do it in a really good, responsible way that retains the value and grows it? That's a big challenge. Most businesses, they don't get to the second generation. The kids often don't care and they don't want to work as hard as you did to build a company. So if you are fortunate enough to be in the spot where you have adult kids who want to be part of the business, congratulations. You're well ahead of the pack, because most people, they don't have that available to them. But congratulations on where you are up to this point with your success. And let me now go to this next slide here. I'm going to show you this because on this, a point I want to make is there are many pieces to your company that matter. And what my role is and how I can help you as you think about your company, what we often get involved with doing is really managing all the professionals that are key players, part of your professional team. And for our business owners that are typically family-owned business, we visually represent this with this slide. And I want you to see this because even though your family and business are two separate things, you know as well as I do, it's very often that those two get put together and you just can't separate them. So if you're in a pinch and you need help, well, maybe your son steps in to do a couple things for you. Maybe you're on the way to the baseball game and you say, hey, mijo, we're going to stop by. We're going to drop this package off on the way to the game. That kind of thing happens all the time with a family-owned business. So what I would ask you to look at this for and to visually think about this for is, these are all the professionals who really need to be part of your team. You have probably all of these on board right now today, at least I hope you do. And I'm going to start here going from left to right. Tax is your CPA or your enrolled agent, whoever takes care of your taxes. The tax person, of course, is looking at the tax aspects of what you do. And this team member is critical in minimizing those taxes. Just going from left to right, investments, you have a certain number of dollars that you have in your company, and you decide what to do with them. You might decide to invest those in new equipment, or invest those in a new hire, or invest those in new facilities, or maybe you have enough that you can invest them in, marketable securities. The financial planning, the next bullet here, is having an overall plan. So it's very normal for us to get so wrapped up in our businesses on a day-to-day realm that we forget to just take a step back and look at the big picture. And that's what I want you to do today. I want you to take a step back and look at the big picture of where you are. And I want you to, for your benefit, you want to look at from this point going forward, at what point are you thinking you might liquidate this business, or that you might need to start training that adult child to take over, or whatever you have in mind for the company. Legal, so many times you need to bring in a legal person, an attorney, to talk about that new hire you're going to bring on, or to help you get the contract together on the purchase of that new real estate. But legal is really critical. And we'll use an expression, I'll use an expression quite a bit, and we'll say experts in every corner. So we want to have an expert in every corner. And the reason why you want to have an expert in all of your corners is you want to get the expert when you're buying that building who really understands real estate law. You don't want to get the generalist lawyer or the business lawyer who doesn't understand real estate. He or she really has to understand that specialty to really do the right thing for you. The next point on here is banking. Banking is just so important, because if you don't have that cash, you don't have a business. And having a good relationship with your banker is critical to making sure that when you need those funds, that banker knows who you are and that banker can help you get those funds. Banking is a very highly regulated industry. Even though it's highly regulated, the bankers still have control. They have some leeway, and they can lean in your favor and help you, or they can lean the other way and say, no, we're not interested. So the better relationship you have with your bank, the easier it will be for you to help you grow the business and have the financing that you need when you need it. This other point, upper right-hand corner, is insurance. Insurance, to me, is all about protection. It's about how do you protect the value in your company? How do you protect your family? And protecting that value is important because that's what you're going to sell later or somehow transition to your kids later when that time comes. So what our role in this process typically is to have one overarching strategy for the family and the business where we coordinate all of these experts for the benefit of that family and that family-owned business. And this is a good time to mention why we do this. And I'll just go back a little bit to tell you why this is so strikes such a chord with me. Long time ago, when I first got out of college and began working as a CPA preparing taxes, I remember I was preparing a tax return for a surgeon. And this woman had a W-2, and I had never seen a W-2 for $1 million before. I didn't know that many zeros fit on a W-2. So when I was working on this surgeon's tax return, there was a form in her documents that wasn't clear. So I called her up and asked her, hey, this is Armando, working your tax returns. I've got a question on this form. I don't get it. What is this? She says, I don't know what you're talking about, Armando. Call my broker. So on that sheet of paper was his name and number. I called her broker. I told him what I was looking at. He didn't have a clue what I was talking about. My immediate thought was, this very successful self-made woman who is working her fingers to the bone in her area of expertise is relying on this individual to help her and do the right thing for her. He didn't have a clue. And come to find out, it turned out that the attorney was doing things on his own, not talking with the CPA, and the insurance agents while working on their own. So where did that leave this surgeon? Well, you know, she is too busy to really take care of any of this. She relies on her people. And there was no one person there being her personal CFO, in effect, to make sure that all these pieces came together for her benefit. So that's why we do what we do, because people like her, and probably people like you, really need to have that point person so that you can keep focusing on your expertise and really maximize your value, but you've got to have the right team in place. I'm going to go through our wealth management formula for you because there are two components to this that are really critical to where we are right now today. And these letters represent words, so I'll just tell you what this means. To us, this means wealth management equals investment consulting plus advanced planning plus relationship management. The most straightforward part of this is the investment consulting, and that's all the normal stuff. Okay, well, how do you invest money? What's time horizon? What's risk? But let me break down the other components for you. This is the one I want you to really understand as we have the rest of our dialogue today. And those are the two in red. For us, the advanced planning is it's wealth enhancement plus wealth transfer, which is all about succession of your business, plus wealth protection, which is all about protecting your business and your family, plus charitable giving. The wealth enhancement is really focused on tax and cash flow. But the wealth transfer, it's all about what are you going to do with the wealth that you have built, the value that you have built in this company. I'll go through a couple of quick examples here for you. In the wealth transfer, we have this new client who I mentioned. They brought with them their 25-year-old daughter. Their plan is to transition this business over to her. That's fantastic. I'm excited that is the plan. So they brought her so that she can begin to learn. They know it may take her at least 5 years to really understand what she needs to so she can step in and begin to take over. So they brought her as part of her training. And as part of her training, I told the couple, as part of her training, we have a monthly phone call with young adults like her, which are the adult kids of our clients, so that we can help teach them so that when that wealth transfer comes with that business, then she is really in a better position to be able to do that. I'll talk now about the wealth protection, which is the second red on here. The wealth protection is really three things. It's insurance. What insurance do you have to protect the value of your business? And what entities do you have in place to protect the value of your business? And what trusts do you have, really more for the family side of things, to protect the value of the overall net worth of your family? So I'm going to talk about a couple of things here because there are a lot of misconceptions about trusts. And I mentioned trust because we have a client who about 3 years ago, I've known him forever, and I knew him on day one of his business. He and I met, and he told me what his plan was. He was going to build this company. He was going to work his rear end off for about 8 years, build this company, and sell it. And he is on track for doing all those things. So he has now built a company with 400 employees. And when he and I met about 3 years ago to talk about his next stage, about selling the business, I told him that we had to bring in a business evaluation person because we had to know the value of his company. We had to know the value of his company so that when he went out into the marketplace to begin to sell it, he knew what price he was looking for. So we brought in a business appraiser, and she came back and said that his business was worth $12 to $15 million. Great. Well, now we knew what that target was, and we had the outside third-party validation so that we could then take that price to the potential buyers. Well, that client was in my office just a few months ago, and we went through revising his estate documents with his attorney. And I wanted to look at a draft of those documents because part of my responsibility is making sure that the net worth that the family has, and most of it is in the business, to make sure that that net worth is protected. So he told me that it was all protected, that he had set up a trust with his lawyer, and that it was all good to go. Well, I knew that wasn't the case from what he told me. And I want to make a point to you so that you understand and it's clear, because this is a big misconception that most people have. When you think about trusts, there are two types of trusts. There's what's called a revocable living trust, and there's an irrevocable trust. The revocable trust is sometimes called revocable. The irrevocable is sometimes called irrevocable. No matter how you pronounce that word, it's the same thing. That revocable trust is not asset protection. I want to drill that point home because most people don't understand that, and I imagine that that might not be clear to you. A revocable trust is not asset protection. If your home is in your revocable trust, that is not asset protection. That trust is set up so that when you die, that home goes into a permanent trust, and then it goes to your beneficiaries and your heirs. But while you're living, it doesn't give you any asset protection at all. The irrevocable trust, it does give you the asset protection. So if you have your business in a trust, it needs to be, if it's going to be protected, it needs to be in that irrevocable trust. Businesses are not normally in a trust. Normally they're in an LLC, S Corp, C Corp, partnership, different things like that. I did a presentation for 400 FBI special agents about 3 years ago, and they were all CPAs. They called me because they wanted me to give them a 2-hour session on financial planning for them. I bring it up now because when I talked about this point about revocable trusts and irrevocable trusts, again, I had 400 people, I'm on stage, I had 400 people in this room. The look across the board for many of the people there, they didn't understand this. These were all FBI special agents, they were FBI forensic accountants, and they were all CPAs. If they don't understand this, I don't expect you to understand this either. And that's why I'm drilling this point home so that you can make sure that you look at yours, how you're set up, and that you can talk with your attorney so that you really get the protections in place that you think, that you might think you already have. So I hope that's clear. The wealth protection component, I'm going to go back to that for a second. We have a new client who, this same client came on board with us last Friday. And what one of his questions to me was, you know, Armando, you've taken a quick look at what we have. Do you have any concerns about what we're doing right now? And I said to him, no, you know, the only concern I have is you have 4 kids and you want to bring them all in the business. I'd say your biggest challenge is going to be navigating the family dynamic so that you can keep family harmony and that the kids don't feel like you're favoring one over the other. But everything else I see, nothing causes me alarm. Well, that was Friday. Yesterday, I spent about an hour looking at their material, at what they have already. And what I saw did cause me some alarm. They have an entity that is a management company, and this entity is what's called a C corporation. So a C corporation is a great vehicle. That isn't what bothers me. But what bothers me is inside this C corporation, there are 2 pieces of real estate. And one thing that's kind of a general rule is when you have real estate, you don't put it in a C corporation. You don't put real estate in a C corporation. So I don't know why that happens. I don't know why it is, but I did see that one of these just happened last year, and they've had the same CPA for years. So I mentioned that because now I need to go back to their CPA and have a conversation with them. But before I do that, I'm going to take this client situation to my professional network. We have a professional network that is made up of a business attorney, an estate attorney, a CPA that only works with businesses. It's a property casualty person, insurance person. It's a life insurance person, and an actuary. So these people are my professional network, here for my company. I will take this situation to them and throw it to them to see what concerns or issues they bring up. Maybe it's perfectly fine, but these are my experts, and I'm going to them so they can chime in on what they think about that. I think there's some kind of an error, and we're going to have to unwind that. But I don't really know that right now for sure, but I will know that. So that's what our expert, our professionals will do for us. They will help unwind that. And then I'll go to the CPA, and we'll have to unwind it and do that in a way where CPA is not offended that I've brought that to their attention. But my job, my responsibility is to take care of that family and that business. And if I have to ruffle the feathers of their CPA, that's okay. My job is to take care of that family and that business. So the last part of that CG is charitable giving. So in our advanced planning formula, it's wealth enhancement plus wealth transfer plus wealth protection plus charitable giving. It's maximizing the charitable giving that people like to do. This last piece of our formula, I'll go by this really, really fast, is relationship management. You have customers and you have CRM, client relationship management. So you've got to make sure that you understand who that customer is and what's important to them and what they're coming to you for. But the part of that, this PNRM, is professional network relationship management. And that is us managing the relationship with the CPA, the lawyer, the insurance people, the bankers, and all of that. And this is what we hear our clients telling us often, that they're glad that we can talk with them because we know how to speak their language. And for you, if you can speak the language of your attorney and CPA and insurance agent, great. If you cannot speak that language, then just spend more time with them so that you can learn, and that way you're making informed decisions all the way through. So this slide, I'll go through and talk about, where are you right now today? And I want you to spend some time on this, because as we get busy with our businesses, we kind of forget, that maybe a year ago, maybe you didn't have the fleet of cars or the delivery trucks. Maybe you didn't have the facilities that you have today. Maybe you didn't have that equipment. But I'll ask you right now, where are you today? Because as you think about your own story from startup to today, you have built wealth and value along the way. And it's important that you don't lose sight of the value that you have built along the way. Because if you lose sight of it, that means that that value will disappear and your family will not benefit from that value. So as you think about where you are today, I'll ask you to think about, at some point you started this business and you began to grow this business. On day one, you didn't have anything in the company. It was just an idea in your head. But then you started to grow. You started to get some traction. You started maybe to get some hyper growth. And then businesses have this whole life cycle. It's this whole curve of a life cycle. Startup, growth, sometimes hyper growth, and then you get to maturity, and then the business declines. Well, as you think about your own value of your company, the value, the time when the company has the highest value is not when it's a mature business, not when it's already, gone through that curve and now it's at the top. That's not when it has the highest value. When it has the highest value is before it gets there. So on that growth curve, it's on the way up, because your buyer, your potential buyer, what they are looking for is more runway. They want to see that there's more growth in that company. They want to buy it here because it can grow to be here. They're buying that differential. That's what they're buying. So you want to make sure that wherever you are in your business life cycle, that you're aware of when your company has the highest value, because if you are thinking of selling it, you want to make sure you know that is when the highest value is there. Now, some of you, I'm not quite sure who all is on the call. I can't really see that on my screen, but I'm going to take a quick look now that I'm going to just give me 1 second to take a quick look to see who all is here. I went to each of your websites on earlier this week, but I went to each of your websites because I wanted to see what your companies represent. And I was really excited to see your websites because some of those are pretty darn nice. And it was really hard to tell if you're a one-person shop or if you have 100 people on board, which is great because you want your customers, your clients to think that you're larger than you are, because then you'll get the bigger clients, right? So as I looked at your websites to see who you are, I saw some of you in business since the 90s. Some of you are newer. I saw a chocolatier, which sounded just really delicious. Tamales, engineering company, mobile car wash, professional services, financial services. I saw you, Mary Rabago. I know you're here too. And I'm going to use you, Mary, as an example on a point I'd like to make here. Some of you are in a business where you may think that you're a one-man or a one-woman shop. And Mary Rabago, I'll use you as an example. We see you, of course, on TV, on Facebook, on YouTube. We see you in newspapers and magazines, and you're all over. You are the face of your company. And even though you are the face of your company, it does not mean you are a one-woman shop. And I want to use an example here of someone who was probably on a similar path to you, Mary. And I'd like the rest of you to think of your own businesses because the life cycle and the growth that can happen is applicable to everyone on this Zoom. So there was a news anchor once who was like Mary, who was an anchor like Mary on Univision. She was a news anchor in a company or in a big market, and she was making about $450,000 a year as a news anchor in this city. Well, for most people, $450, that's a pretty darn good income. And for most people, they would have been very content to stay right there and write out the rest of their career. That would have been perfectly fine. But for this woman, that isn't what she wanted. What she wanted was more. So this woman got to be the host of a talk show. Her talk show was very successful. And like you, Mary, she was very personable, a really good communicator, really made people feel comfortable, and was just really good at having a dialogue with people. And Mary, you and I have done some stuff together, and even though my Spanish is horrible, you made me feel good that I could squeak out really broken Spanish. But that just is a testament to how good you are, how much of an expert, how much of a trained professional you are in your space. Well, this woman was very similar to you. When she had her talk show and people loved her, her talk show took off. So what she did is she started her own production company, and she took her show and she syndicated this all across the country. So her income, excuse me, her income, which was about $450,000 a year, suddenly went up by millions, because she realized she had the opportunity to take her company. And even though she was a one-woman show, she had all these people as part of her team. And she then became Oprah. Oprah was a news anchor, just like you, Mary. And Oprah's story, if you look at Oprah's story, she's from Mississippi. She was in a poor Black family, and she had a troubled teenage upbringing, but she has made herself one of the wealthiest women in the world, and it's because she kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and she recognized opportunities. So those of you who may feel like you are limited some way because of either your geographic, your location where you are, or maybe you are thinking you're a one-person shop, that is not the case at all. Oprah built a billionaire's empire, and we still see her. We don't see all those people behind her. So as you think about where you are right now and the path that you're going on, what is it that you have done to build value in your company. I'm going to give you, let me go to my next slide here, if I can. Here we go. So what have you created that's value in your company? And one of the benefits of having your own business is is that you get to decide what that business looks like, and you get to decide how that business fits with your family. For some of us, like Oprah, she just went all out and she probably worked 24/7 to build it. Well, good for her. Well, for most of us, we have a family and we have kids, and we don't really want to go that full steam ahead. Good thing about your company is you can decide how much you want to do. Years ago, I had a niche working with Native American tribes. And at that point, I had worked with 15 of Arizona's 22 Native American tribes. And I loved it. I loved the culture. I loved hearing the language. I loved learning the history. And I loved working with the people. But the problem is I had to go see them, and they're not right here in Phoenix. And it meant that I was further and further away from home. And at the time, I had 2 little boys at home. They were 3 and 5 years old, or maybe 2 and 5 years old, but they were little boys. And I made a decision that I wanted to be a dad more than I wanted this niche with my business. And it was a pretty tough decision to make. Actually, it was pretty easy because I wanted to be a dad. I have 2 older brothers who both told me when my first baby was coming along, they said, spend time with your kids when they're young, because you don't get that time back. I listened, I gave up that niche, and I started to focus all of my effort locally here in Phoenix, where I didn't have to travel. You and your business, you have a choice on how you want that business to impact your family. And if you're like Oprah and you want to go all out, great, you have that ability. But if you want to scale it back some and maintain some balance in your family life, well, you have that option too. So let me then go to one more slide here. I'm going a few here. So what have you created that has value today? You have things like a customer list that has value. You may have developed some processes that also have value. You might have invented something. Maybe you have patents in your name. That has value. Each of those individual things has individual value. And when it comes time for you to take that business and sell that or transfer to the next generation, you can take each of those pieces individually and sell them, or you can sell them all together. But it's important that you identify what you have built so that you know what the heck you have and you know what you can sell. Maybe you have a name brand. Whatever it is that you have created that has value in your company, I'd ask you to just step back for a second. You know, Krispy Kreme Donuts invented a process to make donuts. They have an assembly line. So my brother, who is an engineer, he was fascinated with that. Fascinated. Because who would think of a little assembly line on a little, you know, like little pizza oven thing on a little tram to make a donut? So he was fascinated with that process. Did anybody else have that process for donuts? Well, probably not. So could they patent that? Could they license that? Could they sell that? Yes. What do you have in your business that you can patent, that you can license, that you can sell, that you can get a royalty on, that you can transfer? Well, until you make sure that you own it and you nail it down that you own it and it's clear, you don't have anything to sell. So that's why I'm drilling home this point. Make sure you've taken all those appropriate steps to nail down that it's clear you own those different pieces of value in your company. Intellectual property is an area that can be very gray, very nebulous. And what I mean is, when you think about intellectual property, let me talk about real physical property first. This is a cell phone. You all have a cell phone, right? This is a physical thing. This is what's called tangible property. I can touch it. This is tangible. So this tangible thing, you buy it. When you actually get this, I'm taking my phone apart here, but when you take this physical thing, tangible, I'm buying the actual piece of equipment, but I'm licensing a lot of the stuff inside here, and that costs me a monthly fee. So I might be buying a physical phone, and if I drop my phone and break it, I've got to now replace it. But a lot of parts in here are being licensed. And that's about, that is what's called intellectual property, things that you can license. So what is intellectual property? It might be your company name. So in your company name, as I look at the list of your company names, which I have here, you know, Carolina's Chocolates, I don't know if you've protected that name or not. I don't know. Could Carolina's Chocolates become as common a name as Google, for example? Could it be that common? Who knows? But, you know, the sky is the limit. So do you have a name that is part of your intellectual property, and have you protected that name? Have you gone through maybe a trademarking process with the state or the federal trademarking process? If you invented a process, have you gone to the patent office and really patented that process and protected it? Do you have a logo? Maybe you have a company logo that is unique to you, and have you protected that? Is your brand something different or unusual? Have you protected that? Because remember, you can't transfer anything that you don't own. You've got to nail it down that you own that thing. Then it's within your control to sell it. Is it maybe a color scheme that you own on your business or on your packaging? Is it an image? What have you invented and created in your company that maybe you're not really thinking about? So let me go through this, and I want to see if I can move this bar a little bit lower. Oh, good, I can do that. Okay. So now you see the can of Coca-Cola, right? Coca-Cola is probably the most common drink besides water all over the world. And that red can with those white letters is recognizable all over the world. Do you know what one of the most guarded secrets in the world is? It's the recipe for Coca-Cola. And yes, you can look at that can and you can see the ingredients on the back of that can, but one of those ingredients is what's called natural flavors. I don't know what natural flavors are. I don't know that you know that either. But somehow the recipe that makes up Coke is the secret to Coca-Cola, and people have not been able to replicate it. So if you go to the Coca-Cola headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia, and you tour their facility, they talk about that secret because they know how valuable that is. And the Coca-Cola brand is protected because, again, it's all over the world. What they don't tell you when you go through the Coca-Cola facilities in Atlanta, they don't tell you that Coca-Cola used to have cocaine in it. And yes, it did. It used to have cocaine in it. So they took that out. But when people like this energy drink, well, you know what? Cocaine has some effects on the human body, and that was one of them. So that's no longer part of the Coca-Cola story today. What about KFC? And let me talk about KFC. This is a brand that you know as well today. That image there is Colonel Sanders. And yes, that was his real name. What many people don't know about Colonel Sanders is he was in his 60s when he created the secret recipe for KFC chicken. So he didn't start restaurants all over the world. What he invented was a recipe. So those of you who have recipes for tamales, for chocolate, I would ask you, for your own family's sake, protect those recipes. Don't go telling your comadre, oh, here's how you make it. Don't tell her. Keep that recipe secret. Because what if you are the next KFC? You won't have any value at all if you just give it away. So instead, another highly regarded recipe is the KFC chicken recipe, and that might be you. My brother is growing a date farm. He has several acres. He planted all these dates. His wife is a really good cook, and I talk with him probably every couple of weeks. And she's experimenting with dates and what she can do with them. And she's come up with some really good recipes. And I'm telling her, don't you tell anybody what your recipes are. Don't you tell anybody, because you might be the next KFC. You might be the next Coca-Cola. So you just make sure that people love it and you keep that secret. And then we'll talk about how to monetize that, how to cash in on that recipe later. This one, of course, you know as well. This is the Apple logo. What you might not know about Apple, there are organizations out there that do market research all the time. That's just what they do. So I showed you this a minute ago. This is my iPhone. On the back of this, I don't know if you can see this or not. Well, I guess you can. You see the apple, the little apple thing there? Well, Forbes magazine, in their latest research of valuable brands, that little black and white apple with the bite taken out of it, do you want to guess how much that logo, that brand is worth? And they're not saying that the phone is worth it. They're saying that that little logo on the back, that little apple thingy back there, that little logo, when they put it on the iPad, on the iPhone, on the Mac, on the iTunes, on everything else they do, that logo itself is worth $2 billion. That's B, billion with a B, $2 billion. It is the most valuable brand out there. In your company, what do you have today that maybe you've undervalued? You have intellectual property in your business. You have it there today. Have you secured it? Have you made it worth money? Carolina's Chocolates. Does this look familiar to you? I need to look for your name there to get your name right. Give me 1 second here. Carolina's Chocolate, Lisa Toon. So Lisa, I went to your website. I went to your whole website in detail slowly because I just loved hearing the family story, seeing the pictures. It was very, very engaging. I took your logo right here, Carolina's Chocolates. That's your logo. How easy was it for me to go to your website and take your logo and just use it in something like this? So please don't sue me. I did this to make a point that it's very easy these days for people, your competition, to take your great idea and capitalize on it. You cannot let people do that. You cannot let people do that. So to make it up to you, I'm going to buy some chocolate from you, Carolina. Thank you for letting me borrow this just for this presentation to drill home a point. But I hope that you have protected that logo with the 2 C's and the chili in it. I love the logo. It's very eye-catching. The chocolate background, very eye-catching. If you have not protected it, please do so. And I'll talk a little bit more about how to do that in just a few minutes here. McDonald's. You know, of course, this logo, the McDonald's logo. The McDonald's logo is one of the most well-known logos brands across the world. And what you might not know is McDonald's recently lost a fight. We see the golden arches, we think about the French fries, we think about McNuggets, we think about Big Macs, because that's what they've drilled into our heads, right? Well, in the European Union, McDonald's doesn't have that same ownership over what they thought they did. The intellectual property decision-making body of the EU recently decided that McDonald's does not have that claim. The reason they don't have that claim is there's an Irish company called Supermax, and Mac in Ireland is the first part of many names in Ireland. So Supermac is a hamburger chain in Ireland that is also branched out into other parts of the outside of Ireland. And when push came to shove, Supermax won, and McDonald's does not have the same brand awareness and the same claim to fame as they do in other parts of the world. Because early on, they did not protect this properly or appropriately in their business. And now they're paying the price for it. So let's learn from McDonald's and let's not make the same mistake they did. So Carolina's chocolate, if you haven't protected your chili with chocolate and 2 C's, please do so. And please let me know when you've done that. And I'll mention now too, I'm going through a lot of material. My contact information will be at the end of this. If I sparked a question and you have a question for me that we don't get to today, please shoot me an email or give me a call. I'm happy to talk with you. I love helping to build the American dream and the American success story. And that's how I view each of you. I have a list of who you are here, and I love working with business owners. I love helping you become more successful, and I really love helping you protect what you've already built. So please don't be shy about asking a question later. We will have some time after the session for questions, but questions is always limited time on a session like this. So let me now move on just a little bit further. Actually, I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to show you something here that is not on the slides. And this is also intellectual property. This is a book that I co-authored. If you can see it here. If you can see it. But 17 years ago, I partnered with another CPA. Well, now it's been 18 years ago. I partnered with another CPA to write a book. This book is copyrighted. This is original work. This is intangible property. Maybe you have a recipe book that you also need to protect, but Make the Leap is protected. And you can see here, this is the old me from almost 20 years ago. Go ahead and laugh out loud, it's okay. But that needs to be protected. I had a CPA from years ago. I think I mentioned that I sold that in 2007. When I had my CPA firm, people keep kitchen magnets, right? So I wanted to make it easy for my customers, my clients, to remember to give us a call. So we gave all of our clients this. Hope you can see that. It says, I love my CPA. I thought it was funny. So when we talked about that in the office, thought it was funny, we'll make a little kitchen magnet. That way we give it to everybody. They can stick it on their fridge. That way, in my home, we use kitchen magnets for all the kids' stuff, right? And for shopping lists, we gave them all a kitchen magnet. When my kids were younger, I used to go into the schools a lot because I wanted to meet the other parents, and I wanted to make sure that I'm doing my best to be the best parent I can for my kids. I'd go into classes a lot. I went into class one day, and I gave one of these magnets to each of the kids. As a little something to say, hey, and I gave them other freebies and whatever, gave them a pen, gave them a magnet. So I gave them this magnet. And then I went into school probably a couple of days later. I used to take my sons to school. I would walk in with them. I would say hello to the teachers. I wanted to be physically around and be part of that picture. I wanted to know the teacher, so I was there a lot. But after I did that little show and tell with the kids, I went back probably a couple of days later, and the teacher says to me, she says, Armando, that magnet you gave out the other day, well, so-and-so's mom is also a CPA, and she told me that she liked your magnet so much that what she did is she got a pair of scissors, she cut your name off the magnet, and she put this on her refrigerator. Ha ha ha. I was so angry when I heard that. Because what had she done? She had taken my work. But shame on me, I had not protected it. Well, guess who owns the trademark for I Heart My CPA across the United States? I do. So it was good that she actually did that because it it, it got me angry, but it got me to take action. I hired an attorney. We did a national search. Nobody owned it. So now I own iHeart My CPA all across the country. Nobody but me has sole rights to use that anywhere in the United States. For your company, again, protecting what you have, I tell you that so that you can protect what you have. I also made these bumper stickers. This is a joke. Even my mother wouldn't put this on her car, but you know, you want to protect your intellectual property because it has value and it can be licensed. You don't have to do anything with it. Just license it to somebody else. Let them take it and run with it. So how have you protected your intellectual property? And this question that we'll look at here is, if something happens to you, how do you get the value to your family? How does that value get to your family? So that's a very good question, and I want you to take some action to do this. So this is close to one of the last slides, if not the last slide. And when you think about protecting the value in your company and transferring that value to your family, if anything happens to you, how are you going to do it? Well, you might do it with simply getting a simple layer of protection for insurance. But this is another time I'll give you for a really quick story also. I had lunch with a CPA just this week on Wednesday, and he asked me, hey, Armando, I need a good actuary. Do you have one? Yeah, of course. What's going on? He says, well, we have an actuary that we've worked with before, and I've been calling. I'm not getting a response back. He says, finally, the owner's son called me back, and he told me that dad, the actuary, has dementia. So the CPA tells me, now I have to take the 10 plans that I have with him. I've got to find a new home for those. So I'm going to help him find a new actuary, and we're going to move those plans to the new actuary. But the sad part of that story is that actuary has a firm right now today that has value. But there wasn't a plan in place. So when dad got dementia, when the owner of the business got dementia, son didn't know what to do. So son told the customers, I'm sorry, we can't help you. If that had been my client, if I knew son, if I knew the family, I would call him. And what I would have told son is, don't call the clients. Don't call them and tell them that. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to call your competition. We're going to tell them how many clients you have on board and how much revenue you get each year from these clients. And we're going to negotiate a sale of all these clients in bulk to one of your competitors. If son had done that, if family had done that, family would have some value out of that company. But because dad didn't plan ahead and dad didn't set these wheels in motion, it's not going to happen. And the value of that company is going to be zero once all those clients go away. Please don't let that happen to your company if anything happens to you. I'll give you one other example of a CPA firm I just had breakfast with about 4 weeks ago, where very, very similar situation, but a very different outcome. This CPA, there were 3 partners. They had a buy-sell agreement in place. A buy-sell agreement is a written agreement. And what it says is, if anything happens to any of the 3 of us, the other 2 are going to buy that person out. And here's the formula on how we calculate that price. And here's how we're going to pay them. Here's when we're going to pay them. And here's how it's going to work. They had an attorney draft all this. They all signed it. It was a nice, neat, legal, contractual agreement. So this other CPA I had breakfast with, when he told me that the senior partner had dementia and he suddenly went downhill very, very quickly, for them, in terms of business continuity, it was very seamless. The clients of that partner who got dementia, they got divvied amongst the other partners in the firm. So the clients were told what was going on, and they were told, here's the partner who's taking care of it. Don't worry, all that value stayed in the firm. And for that partner's family, the one who now has dementia, the value he has in that company, and my guess is the value is probably about $2 million. That $2 million that is his is now transferring right now, today, to his family. So the whole $2 million will get to the family, whereas in the other situation with the actuary, zero is going to get to that family. So you want to be in the camp where all the money transfers versus where none of it transfers. So let me talk about insurance policies. If you do nothing else in your business, I want you to think about what happens right now today if you suddenly don't live to that ripe old age. What if you suddenly die? What happens? Well, the easiest, simplest, quickest thing to do is to get a life insurance policy. And the company, the client we have who came on board in May, it was May last year, she and her husband came here. I asked her in that meeting, I said to her, how much do you think your company's worth? She says, I don't know, I'm gonna guess about 2 million. And I said to her, every industry has a formula to determine value of a company. Do you know what that formula is? She says, no. I asked, do you know anybody who does know what that formula is? She goes, you know, I know a couple of people. I'll ask them. I said, great. We need to know an approximate value of your company so that we can appropriately protect the company and protect your family. Great. So she went off. She calls me about 30 days later, super excited. Armando, my company's worth $7 million. She was so super excited. She was thinking too, it's really worth 7. So with her, what we're doing is I told her what we have to do are a couple of steps to protect that wealth. Right now, step number 1 is we need to get a life insurance policy on you for at least $5 million. I'd rather have that policy for a full 7 mil. But to get a policy on a full 7 mil, we would have to have an appraisal done on that business, and there was no time, and she didn't want to spend probably $12,000 to $15,000, which is the cost of an appraisal. She didn't really want to spend that money to get an appraisal. So I'm happy, I'm content if she gets a life insurance policy for $5 million as step number 1. And step number 1 is if she suddenly dies, then she has this, and then her blood, sweat, and tears that she has built over the last 10 or so years, that value then gets to her husband and to her 2 teenage kids. And she leaves husband with the ability to pay for college, pay the mortgage on the house, and he isn't in dire straits because now the breadwinner and the value is disappeared. So number 1, we're getting a life insurance policy on her. At the same time, I told her, what I want you to do is everyone in business knows who their competition is. If you think you have a competitor who would be interested in buying you out, an option that you have is to go talk with that competitor and tell them you're not thinking of selling right now today, but maybe later down the road, you might want to entertain that. But right now, what you're concerned with today is a transition plan if something happens to you. So she could set up an agreement, an actual formal, written agreement with the competitor where they agree to buy her company at a specific formula. Excuse me a second here. where they will buy her company at a specified formula. And if anything happens to her, it's already a done deal. Now her husband can step in with the attorney and make sure that that buyer comes through and performs on that contractual agreement. So she could go to a competitor. You could go to a competitor, and you could do this as well. In her space, she is in a niche market. So there's no real other competitor that she has. There are competitors that are more generalists, but she has a niche market. But wouldn't that generalist competitor want to buy her niche market and then be the king in that niche? Most likely, yes. So yes, they're very interested, very likely to want to buy her company if something happens to her. You probably have that same ability. Big companies, I mentioned this client of ours who is selling for 26 mil. He has a niche market for his company, and he's being bought by a large multinational company. Well, why does a big company, I'll use Verizon as an example, why does Verizon want to buy a little more localized, specialized company? Because it makes them stronger. So you, with your maybe more localized company in a very specific niche, maybe they want to buy you too. Our other plan, or our this is about a three-legged stool here to help her secure the value of the company. One is the insurance policy. The other is talk with a competitor that they may want to buy her. But the other is, do you have any key employees who have the ability to step in and buy that company from you if anything happens to you? Well, maybe you do. Hopefully you do. So the client I mentioned, our new client that came on board last week, they have an executive team that manages the company. Well, wouldn't they be the likely buyers because they already are in place to run the company? Wouldn't they be the likely buyers? Well, you might say to yourself, well, yeah, they have the know-how and they could learn what they don't know at this point, but they don't have the money. They can't pay me $7 million for my business. Well, that may be true, but you can get a life insurance policy on you that they own and they pay for. And then suddenly, if you die, now they have the $7 million to pay your family to buy your family's interest out of this company. So even if they have no money, the insurance companies will still insure your life because you are the owner of that business. And that's what's called an insurable interest. So 3 things I talked about: insurance policies, life insurance policy. I talked about selling to a competitor. I talked about selling to your employees. The second insurance policy I'll touch on here is disability. If you are the primary breadwinner and you have this business, and I'll use the example of the actuary who has dementia, if he had a life insurance policy, that's not going to cash out right now today. He's still alive. So since he is still alive, what will help him continue getting value from this company? What will help him is a disability policy, because a disability insurance policy is designed for exactly that. If you cannot perform in your job, if you cannot do that job because of an injury, an illness, something, then this disability is going to give your family income to replace the income that was lost because you cannot work. There's lots of insurance out there. I'm not going to touch on all the insurance, but I'll touch on different things that you want to do. Again, protecting and transferring, you see the word layers in that upper left-hand corner. You want to have layers of protection, protecting the family and protecting the business. So layers are entities. One of the very first layers is an entity. So an entity for you might be an LLC, a limited liability company. It might be a C Corp. It might be an S Corporation. It might be a partnership. So you want to have the right entity for your business. And the reason you want the right entity is you want that business to perform its best for you. The right entity allows that. I think I mentioned a moment ago that This new client of ours has 2 pieces of real estate in a C corporation. I don't think that's the right entity. I'm going to my experts to see what they think about that. But if you don't have the right entity, it could cost you. The way real estate works in a C corporation, you will pay ordinary, or I forget how it works, but you don't get capital gains treatment for taxes. And capital gains tax rates are a heck of a lot less than ordinary tax rates, which is why you don't put real estate in a C corporation. But that's going back to my tax days a long, long time ago. For you, you want to have the right entity for your business. Operating agreements. When anything goes wrong, it's important that your operating agreements specify who is responsible for what. So in your business, that operating agreement kind of delineates or defines who's responsible for what. That also protects you. If something happens in the business and it was your partner's responsibility to take care of that, well, that's where that gets written down in stone. That's the operating agreement. That's helping to protect your company and helping to protect your family. Contracts. Contracts are important in so many things. If you're going to hire the new CEO, maybe you need a contract because you need that for HR purposes or potential liability purposes. Maybe you're going to buy a new facility, a new building, real estate. You'll have a contract to purchase. But contracts are legal agreements. And what I would tell you about that is make sure you get an attorney who understands contract law and business law. There are many lawyers who are generalists. I don't like working with a generalist. I don't like that at all. I want the specialist. You want the specialist, because that specialist, if he or she only does maybe 2 or 3 different areas, but they are the specialist in that area, you are going to get the best result. You will have the best outcome. Contracts are legal agreements that need to be drafted by an attorney. Now, you can draft it yourself and have the attorney clean it up, but you want to make sure that that attorney who understands contract law is really looking out for your best interest and looking out for you as they put that contract together for you. A contract is another layer of protecting your value, and especially when it comes to selling for, again, my client's selling for 26 mil. For him, there's going to be a contract to purchase, and they're going to spell out how it's going to look, what it's going to look like, and then there'll be a contract to sell where they sign on the dotted line. It's a done deal. Buyer gets the company. He gets $26 million, and there's a clear separation there, and he's done. So all of that, I would say, don't go cheap on things, especially when you're negotiating a sale or something that is worth a lot of value. Copyright, you see that little C next to that word copyright? That's the symbol that means you own that. So when you write something, you write an article, you write a recipe, and you put copyright on it, that is your property, and you're telling the world you own that, and they cannot steal it from you. If they attempt to take it from you, you're going to get the lawyers on board, and you're going to go after them. That's what the copyright means. It's another way to protect what you have. Trademark is another, the little TM in the upper right-hand corner. You will see that on different things. Again, that is how you protect things. There is a federal trademark office, and if you want to get things trademarked at the federal level, that's what you have to do to say that you own it in all 50 states. Trademark is very important. If you want to be like McDonald's and be in litigation later and lose, well, that's what McDonald's did. But if you want to be the winner, as soon as you invent it, you want to make sure it's clear you own it and nobody else can take it from you. Trust, oops, back up here. Trust, revocable and irrevocable. I already talked about trusts, but very, very important. especially for asset protection. If you're thinking that you want to protect yourself from creditors, that's when an irrevocable trust is really worth its value in creating that document. A buy-sell agreement, I've touched on that a few times already, but this layer of protection in a buy-sell agreement is all about how do you get the value of your company. So I've talked about the new clients of ours who came on board. Their appraiser told them their business is worth about $7 million. The woman who, the couple who came to see me in May last year, her company is also worth about $7 million. And a buy-sell agreement helps to ensure that that $7 million of value transfers from the business over to the family if anything happens to the owner of that business. That's what needs to happen. I'll give you just another quick, really super quick story here as well. A few years ago, a woman calls me and she has a little bit of, she didn't sound right. She wants to come see me. I was trying to put her off because I was busy, but I asked her, why do you want to come see me? And she said, well, my CPA, so-and-so said I need to come see you because my husband died last week and I need help getting things together. So she's okay. She could have been a lot better. Husband was on a treadmill, on a business trip, on a treadmill in the hotel overnight for a business trip. On the treadmill, he dropped dead with a heart attack at 44 years old. Nobody saw it coming. They had a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old at home who will never know who their daddy was because he's gone. But that man made about $800,000 a year, and he had a life insurance policy for $500,000. He should have had at least $3 million. If he had a $3 million life insurance policy, his widow would not be working 40 hours a week full time to support those 2 little kids. Now she's going to be okay. They're going to be okay, but she is trying to grieve the loss of her husband, trying to be the strong, supportive mom for her 2 little kids, and trying to keep money coming in for the sake of her family. And she's trying to keep herself together going through all this. It would have been much easier for her to handle the loss of her husband had a big chunk of money come in where she could just pay off the house and have money to live on while she got things together and got her life back together. So buy-sell agreement for you, the business owner, can be funded with life insurance. So if that happens with you and your family, you're covered that way. I don't want to get a call from your spouse that you didn't take care of this and now they want me to help them. I'll help them, but I'd much rather have them say that you had the buy-sell in place, you had the life insurance in place, and you had agreements all nice, neat, and buttoned up, and you already clearly owned all of the assets, because then it's a much better outcome for your family. I'm going to give you 2 things, and then I'm going to wrap up here. I'm going to send you an email with our business owner's checklist, and I'm going to give you an estate planning checklist. The business owner's checklist are things that I'll just ask you to think about, that you want to think about for your business. The estate planning, I'm going to send you that because we get questions about this a lot, and many of you are probably taking care of your parents, and the parents, if you're like most of our clients who are first-generation wealth, your parents haven't taken care of all those things they should have before they pass. So this checklist, that the estate planning checklist, is designed for you to have that checklist and talk with your own parents or maybe aunts and uncles so that they will get things buttoned up before their time comes, so that when their time does come, the family is focused on grieving the loss of that family member instead of doing all this other stuff with the lawyers and the CPAs and the banks and all that stuff. That is noise that should be done ahead of time, not when the person passes and the family is grieving the loss of the loved one. So now I'll open this up for questions. We have some time for questions. And Here is my contact information. Feel free to email me or call me after this if we don't get to a question for you. And Elizabeth, I'm going to lean on you to kind of lead from here on out, please.
Yes, thank you, Armando. This was really great and very informative presentation. Like Armando mentioned, we'll go ahead. If you have any questions, or if you want to also unmute yourself, we'll open it up to questions now. We'll reserve about a couple minutes, and then we'll go ahead and transition into our little graduation ceremony. I do see here Imelda. Okay, go ahead, Imelda. Let me unmute you.
Okay, hi.
Great.
Thank you, Armando, for your great presentation. I do have a question. So can everybody see me? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. You spoke about the importance of protecting like the logos and intellectual property. But I'm a little confused because I do have an attorney, and my attorney has stated that when you create a logo or you have a brand, you have certain rights already. But when you register, you just have like additional rights. So I'm a little confused. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Right. When you create something, you want to put labels on it, like the TM that I mentioned, the trademark. You want to put that on things that are written. The C for copyright, that means that you own that information as well. But he's correct that you own it because you created it. But if it's more clear that you own it and someone else takes it, then you have a fight in your hands. So for example, you might remember years ago, Jennifer Lopez had a line of perfume and cosmetics and stuff, but somebody else had already created the name that Jennifer Lopez began using. So Jennifer Lopez had to pay this woman a big fat check because it wasn't clear that J.Lo really owned it. So for you, you can go through and get a federal trademark. You can talk with an intellectual property attorney. There are attorneys that specialize in this, and they work in what's called intellectual property. This is a specialty. So it's possible that your attorney, even though he or she may be a business attorney, they may not be the specialist in this, and it might be worth talking with a specialist in intellectual property. That's what I did years ago when I wanted to protect what I have, because I didn't know anything about that, and they protected it for me. I paid them, they did it, I was protected. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
Hi, this is Evanardo. I'd like to add to that if I could.
certainly.
So as a photographer, and this is advice for the other business owners, just because I'm dealing with it with one of my clients right now who fired their previous photographer, now hired me, and is actually going through the battle of getting the copyright or the licensing agreements to use those images. So if you've ever hired a photographer to take photos for your business or of yourself, make sure that you are getting, they probably won't give you the copyright, but at least that they should be giving you the licensing rights to use the photos however you want. And that way the photographer can't come back to you and take that work back. And that would work for videographers as well.
Excellent. Good point. Thank you. Any other questions or thoughts?
I have a question, Brenda.
Go ahead.
So my question is, I have been working on some intellectual property, some courses. I was confused as to if I should do it under my current business or start like another entity for that, and if they have any kind of different implications doing it two different ways.
My advice to you would be to start a separate entity for it, because if somebody wants to buy your marketing company, well, you've got two things that you own. Do they want to buy one or the other or both? If you wrap it all into one deal, it's not as clear. And you might have a buyer of those courses who only wants the courses. And if it's all jumbled in one big pot of your marketing company, it's just, it slows things down, it confuses things. It's more clear under a separate entity. Good. Other questions or thoughts?
Armando, a question for corporation status: is S Corp solely for taxation and C Corp is what gives the better umbrella protection?
Well, it's not that clear really. S Corp is a tax designation, but today the LLC is often the better way to go. It's a lot more flexible, but the C Corp, the S Corp, and the LLC will all give you the same level of protection in the business that you're looking for. But lawyers love the LLC because it's a lot more flexible. It gives you a lot more wiggle room on how you want to do it. They will, your tax CPA will often make S election status, that you're taxed as an S corporation, but you're still an LLC.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Other questions or thoughts?
I have another comment. Lupe with Goodies Auto Glass. So a couple of years ago, I registered my business, and when I was doing a search, just trying to make sure that everything was in place, I noticed that there was another Goodies Glass Inc., but what they did is they added and Body Shop. But because they added and Body Shop, I couldn't do anything about it because it's a brand, it's not the same.
Different,
So after talking to my attorneys, they said that it wasn't worth the fight but just let it, that's kind of what happened to me. So, you know, it was interesting. I learned a lot about that, but you know, this company that has my name and added that on, it was very weird because, you know, Goodies Glass is not really like very common.
Right.
And I thought it was kind of weird, and they did kind of they registered that business in an area that we were kind of marketing, and we were in that, so we were doing all this work and they were trying to piggyback. That's how kind of how I felt.
And I would feel the same way, and that's why you want to protect things as much as you can, because you experienced, you know, a little bit possible infringement on all the hours and time and effort you spent building that name, Goodies. And now somebody else kind of piggybacked on it. They're getting some of the benefit in their company based on all the money that you spent to build this, which really isn't fair. But that's why making sure that you're talking with your attorney and your intellectual property attorney about those kind of things so that you can navigate that better going forward and not get in the same situation again. Other questions or thoughts?
I do. Just really quick, Armando, this is Marira.
Hi.
Sorry, there I am. It's a Tongo day, so I'm sorry, it's Friday. A relaxed day for everyone. Really quick, what do you have to say in regards, like I have my trademark and the registrations and everything for my and my name also. You have to renew those after certain years, or once you do it, they're done?
No, there is. You have to keep things current. And that's where I'd lean on that intellectual property attorney to give guidance. I know when I went through that process, they told me that about every 10 years, you had to go back and kind of re-up. I don't know what that means. All I know is that my expert attorney says I have to do something every 10 years. I'm going to do it because that was her expertise. She only does intellectual property. I'm going to rely on what she tells me.
Could you share with us the contact? The contact for that attorney?
Yeah, actually, she has now gone to work as legal counsel for a company in Kansas, but I have another one. And what I'll do, I'm going to email all of you. I've got your email addresses. I'm going to email you the 3 things I talked about: the business checklist, the estate plan checklist. I will email you the contact, another local contact for intellectual property.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
So thank you.
Great presentation, by the way. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm just making a note here. Other questions or thoughts? Elizabeth, I'm not sure how much more time we have.
We'll go ahead and wrap up our questions here, and we'll obviously share your information in our post-event email. Just got a note that Ramiro is on, and he is going to provide a couple remarks on behalf of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, who's one of the supporters of the program, and we are really appreciative of his time today. So Ramiro, why don't you go ahead and provide your remarks? I know you have another conflicting meeting that just came up, so I'll go ahead and let you take it away from here. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, well, thank you all. This has been a pleasure to be with you. What a great job, Armando, great presentation. And Elizabeth, thank you for the powerful work the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce is doing. And to each of the Avanzar participants, our focus is on you. We care about you, and we want you to have the skills and the resources you need to create jobs and to build prosperity for you and your families. I'll be brief. I'm representing our National Hispanic Chamber. Our chairwoman is Alice Rodriguez, and she is a longtime leader in the corporate community, but she has great passion for building capacity for Latino small businesses. As the president and CEO, it's my privilege to, quite frankly, work for each of you and the Arizona Hispanic Chamber to make sure that we lead where it comes to be important for gaining access to capital, being in positions of power throughout our country, and building the resources and the strength for the 250 Hispanic chambers that are through our network. There are 5 million Hispanic-owned businesses. Each of you is a part of that population that is fast growing and is gonna rebuild our economy. Just in conclusion, congratulations to each of you for going through the program and graduating shortly. I'm very proud of you. I'm very proud of the staff. Monica Villalobos, the great CEO of the Arizona Hispanic Chamber. I want to commend her. Great job, Monica, if you're on the line. And of course, Elizabeth, you and your team. I want to thank our team, Brianna Dimas, Richard Garcia, the whole team at the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for their passion and their commitment to making sure that these programs that we have around the country, with 7 leading Hispanic chambers, Arizona being at the very top of that heap, do a great job. In conclusion, I want to thank Wells Fargo and the Wells Fargo Foundation. Joe Trimble is speaking soon. Joe is a great friend. He's someone that has great passion for this work. And without Joe Trimble and the team at Wells Fargo, we would not have the financial support as chambers to put this together for our members. So thank you, Joe, for the great job you do. Give my best to your team. And then congratulations. Joe is also a chamber person. In addition to a philanthropist in funding these programs, I want to commend him for being the chair-elect of the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce, just down the street from you all, or the next state over. So, felicidades a todos, tanto orgullo que nos da por el éxito del programa de Avanzar. Thank you, Joe, Wells Fargo. Brianna, you inspire us every day with your passion for our programs at the United States Hispanic Chamber. On behalf of our United States Hispanic Chamber Board of Directors and all of our members, congratulations to each of you, and congratulations to Wells Fargo and the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for this Avanzar program. We look forward to seeing you soon. My apologies that I can't be with you in person, but we'll do it once we get everybody vaccinated throughout this country. Muchísimas gracias y felicidades.
And Elizabeth and Monica, would it be okay if we invite everyone to turn their cameras on for a group photo?
Absolutely.
Yes, of course. That's a great idea. It's okay if it's Chongo Friday. Don't worry about it.
I wish it was. No, it's okay if it's Chongo Friday. I just wish it was Chongo Friday for me.
That's great. That's great. Ramiro, thank you so much. I know your time is limited, and right now you are working hard for us in Washington, D.C. I can tell you all, in the time that Ramiro Cavazos has taken over the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, not only has he brought on great talent like Brianna, who we love to work with, but we're also feeling that collaboration in a way that we haven't before. And these programs are absolutely critical. So I hope everyone will give us a great big smile so we can get that photo. I'm not sure, Brianna, are you taking the photo?
I'll take it. Sure. I'm going to count it down. If anyone else wants to join in, no pressure. Okay. In 3, 2, big smiles. 1, cheese. Okay, got it.
Thank you, Monica, for your kind words. And it's a team effort. We're in this together, literally, and we work for you. So we will continue to generate resources for your chamber and your members, and we'll continue to do that. And thank you for the shout out for Brianna. She has been a tremendous asset for us, and we're going to continue to add to our team and make sure that they have the passion that she does to support the work that you all are doing, because I know you're very busy too, Monica. So congratulations to each of you. Muchísimas gracias. Congratulations again. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Ramiro. We really appreciate it.
Adios.
Take care. Stay healthy.
You too. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I understand that Joe Trimble wasn't able to join us, but Elizabeth, do we have a few words from him?
Yes, unfortunately, he's busy working with the PPP applications. So he just wanted to let everyone know that let me pull up his message here. He is thankful for the chamber for continuing to build the scalable businesses in Arizona right now. COVID-19 continues to weigh in on small businesses. As an owner, your number one job is to stay focused and staying positive and continuing to make thoughtful decisions. With the shifting environment, you will need these connections that you made in Avanzar and with the chamber. Be deliberate and diligent and continue to leverage the resources around you. If you do know, you will rise to brighter horizons. I couldn't be more proud of all of you. Thank you for your participation in the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Avanzar program.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Wells Fargo has been an amazing partner for many years. And during COVID, they were the largest investor in our success grants. So for those of you that received those micro grants, Wells Fargo contributed $75,000 to that program. And last year we were able to distribute nearly $200,000 in micro grants to help businesses stay afloat, identify a pivot strategy, and then also transition into some traditional lending and to avoid predatory lending. So we are grateful to Wells Fargo for their work. A couple of things I want to share with you. We know that 56% of minority-owned businesses in the state of Arizona are family-owned businesses. And there's a huge lack of succession planning, which is why Armando's presentation today was so critical. And he provided some wonderful information. I can't tell you how many times people have come to me, to our staff, and said, hey, I've got this great idea, and I have to stop them for a second and say, do you have an NDA? Do you have a non-disclosure that you want me to sign? Because they're giving their ideas away. So you have to be sure that you're protecting yourself, you're protecting your businesses. And if you ever need an NDA, we have a blanket NDA that we provide to all of our members so that if you're sharing ideas, you make sure that you have some protection for them. And I think all of the information that Armando shared, Armando is one of almost 40 board members that we have. They are all here to be collaborative, to help serve you, and we're working every day to make sure that we're getting you the resources that you need. I want to thank Armando as well as our wonderful staff. I think you know them all probably intimately, and you want to reach out to them whenever you need anything at all. It looks like on the call today we've got Eric McIntosh. We also have Elizabeth, of course, who runs it all, Christina Gonzalez. We have Cerilia Gallard. We've got a new member, Nicole Topete. Of course, Rosa Flig, who is Mission Control. Staff, if I've forgotten anyone, I apologize. We probably have some other staff members on here as well that I'm just not seeing, but our team is here to serve you, and it is our honor to serve you. You are our #1 priority. And I hope that this program and all of the other programs that that we work on exemplifies that. Again, so much thanks to the USHCC for their collaboration. This program would not be possible without being able to triangulate between our national organization at the USHCC, Wells Fargo, that's a partner both at the national and the local level, and then our organization at the AZHCC. We are always looking for those kinds of collaborations where we can optimize the services that we provide, and I'm sure that you have all found this incredibly helpful. So I'm really pleased. A couple of things, I know we've got so many wonderful announcements, and we've got also the graduation. I do want to put in the chat box, if you have not applied for PPP, our partners at Raza Development Fund, the largest Hispanic CDFI, Community Development Financial Institution, is providing that information, that services, and disseminating PPP dollars. Even if you applied for it before and you received it, you are still eligible. That link will get you to the information and will get you a call immediately. They are prioritizing our members. So if you think that you qualify, once you look at it, please be sure to apply. This is meant to help you. Also, we have a new, our own Google coach for AZHCC members. Mari Rabago just announced, she is part of this cohort, just announced that she is our new Google coach. So we are so excited to have her represent Arizona, represent the AZHCC, and of course, our partners over at Google that have been very supportive. So as you start to think about how your pivot strategy and all of the different digital elements that you want to include, please reach out to Mari. You know she's always available and she's very responsive. So with those things said, I want to congratulate each and every one of you. This has been a long program, but I think it has been well worth it. All of you are worth it to us. We want to make sure that you succeed, and anything that we can do, please do not hesitate to reach out. We will continue to be here. Your chamber is stronger than ever. We ended, and if you were in part of the annual meeting, you'll know we ended with a surplus. We gave more than almost $200,000 in micro grants. We did not lay off staff. We did not furlough staff. We did not cut back salaries, because we are here to serve you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Congratulations to all of you on this amazing accomplishment. And I'm going to turn it back over to Elizabeth to make sure that we go through the graduation ceremony. I wish we were there. I'd give you all very big hugs. So I'm giving you un abrazo fuerte remotely. Thank you. Elizabeth, you're on mute.
Thank you. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for participating in this program. You know, this was our first, you know, test run for us, so we hope to bring it back for other businesses, other chamber members as well. Really briefly, you know, since we are not able to meet in person, I just wanted to, I know we're going a little bit over time, just wanted to show you all and highlight our little digital certificates that you will be receiving in email shortly. So again, can everyone see my screen? Okay, perfect. So congratulations to Carlos Rosales, Allstate, his agency, Carlos Rosales Agency, Allstate. Let me see. Evelyn Vega, Staffing Strong, congratulations. Everardo Kini, Photo Fusion Studio. Henry Alexander, Splash Enterprises, congratulations. Right. Imelda Hartley, Imelda's Happy Tamales, congratulations. Jimmy Rios, Rios Financial Group, congratulations. Linda Valenzuela with Linda Valenzuela Salon and Mia's Cosmetics. Congratulations. Lisa Toon with Carolina's Chocolate. Congratulations. Luis Castro Jr., Process Control and Engineering. Congratulations. Lupez Encinas with Goodies Glass. Congratulations. Mabel Sosi with Spotted Horse Infosystems. Congratulations. Mari Rabago with Mari Rabago Productions. Congratulations. Ricardo Reina with Reina Rebuilds. Congratulations. Troy Wong with Zanaya Pro Clean. Congratulations. Brinda Mamundi with XN Solutions. Congratulations. Yasmin Venegas with Spanish Media and Translation Services. Congratulations. And Yolima Otalora with Interlingua. By the way, she spoke yesterday at our Business Success webinar. So with that, we just wanted to do a really brief virtual graduation. It does not compare to anything that we would have done in person. We hope to do that in the next coming months, hopefully, be able to celebrate you all because this virtual graduation doesn't compare. But again, congratulations, everyone. This officially concludes the program. You'll be receiving our final event survey or program survey. So make sure you complete all those surveys, please. This helps us, continue on with the program and for future reference as well. And then you'll be receiving your digital certificate and more information about the program as well shortly. So thank you again. Monica, do you have any last minute remarks before we officially close it off?
Felicidades a todos. Me siento muy orgullosa poder estar aquí con ustedes para celebrar. I'm so impressed with the work that you've all done. Keep up the great work that you're doing and know that we are here for you and to make sure that we can help you succeed. Don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. And Armando, appreciate the support for this class today. Appreciate your time and thank you so much for your information today. Have a great day. Bye-bye.